This is a private investigator experience podcast. I'm your host, Phil Little. Today, I'm just going to share some of my thoughts and trying to understand what all happened, what's happened in our country, how we've missed some of the dangers that have arisen. I'm still trying to process the death of Charlie Kirk. My situation is like so many I'm seeing on the networks and the social medias that I never met Charlie Kirk, but I feel like I've lost a member of the family. I still can't wrap my arms around that Charlie is gone. I own what Ghost Detectives International, a 100-year-old global security firm. Under the military, law enforcement, intelligence service, I've done over 50 years of protecting high-risk people, dignitaries, politicians, people with high risk and lots of threats from all over the world. But, I miss this threat to Charlie, even though it's obviously he had threats. And there's been a lot of comments about the security there, the protection around him. And the comments were made, of course, in the private sector. There's usually not the funds there to have a presidential type security. And particularly have snipers, which would be difficult in a lot of areas to have a private sector sniper involved in a protection detail, unless it was a police or SWAT member that was assigned. And I'm reflecting on what maybe could have been done, and in retrospect should have been done, and things that we were doing back. I took over the agency in 77, and back to our founding days, I've records from the 20s, 30s, 40s. West Coast Detectives was protecting celebrities and public figures, and were bodyguards then. That was before threat management, which was founded in around 89, 90 in Los Angeles, which we were part of that founding group for threat management, which hopefully spread around the world. But one of the things that we did on every assignment, no matter the type of event, and particularly when they were outside or in a bowl or some kind of an amphitheater, is our advance work was done every time. And one of the things we were looking for was places where someone could pose a threat to our protectee. And this would be on knolls around an outside area, a raised area, on buildings that were surrounding the venue. In most of the cases with those events, we had the funding to provide enough security protectees, agents who were armed. And in those cases where we thought we had a threat potential, we would station an armed protective agency up on that either building or knoll. And we, from the stage, would have assigned people, and there would be very tight radio communication between all of the agents. And we would be communicating and looking, even from the protectees that would be on the stage, with using those in front of the stage, would be scanning the crowds up close, there to protect that close in a threat. But there would always be somebody on the stage that was scanning the horizon, listening for reports that might be coming from our outpost agents in these critical areas. Fortunately, thank God, we never had a situation where we had something attempted from those outside areas. And in some cases, I've had those events that the funding wasn't there for that extra person or two, and I would provide it out of my own costs and profits to ensure that we had coverage. We're coming back to that. I think it's a wake-up call for everybody that they're having problems processing this event around Charlie, that because he was such a soother, one that was bridging gaps, that whole mannerism and goal was to bring people together to talk. And he listened, he communicated. Yes, it was desire that everyone would come to know his Lord and Savior, which that's my desire. But he did it in such a way that did not cause anger. And many people that came up with questions would ultimately realize they were on the wrong track and change. And that is the testament to Charlie's approach and his genuine concern with everybody that was coming, even though they were hostile to him. I've watched some that were just wild, and how he handled that was amazing. So I believe that this is a wake-up call for America, and I'm thankful that millions are rising up to stand with Erica Kirk and the family and Turning Point, and they're committing that Charlie Kirk's death will not be in vain. Now, I'm a believer in God. I live a biblical worldview. And I must say, I've been asking God, why did your angels not move that bullet? Perhaps a gun jam. And all the things that God could have done. No question. We have a loving God who cares about everyone. But I also know he's perfect and he doesn't make mistakes. In my human mind, I can see no reason to take this brilliant young man away from his wife and his two young children that will never know him. That he will not have the ability to see them grow up, walk down the aisle with his daughter, see his son accelerate and grow into a godly man. I don't understand it, but I know that God doesn't make mistakes and he will bring something good out of this. Charlie Kirk will become much more powerful, will make a bigger impact than ever when he lived. And one day, excuse me, those of us who know Jesus will meet him. I'll meet him finally one day. We'll be able to talk and share and understand. Then I'll understand the purposes of God when I'm in the presence of God. So right now, we have to keep from becoming bitter and angry, striking out. And you'll notice what happened after events when the left, the radical left, was thwarted some way, stopped. Then Antifa and those like them, Black Lives Matter, would go to the streets with violent protests, anger, destroying property, even within the inner cities, the people that they supposedly were trying to represent. And now, think about now, Charlie Kirk, an amazing young man who was making a difference in the lives of millions of young people, has been killed. There's not one demonstration. There's not one violent act from people supporting Charlie Kirk. There's not one outpouring of violence against these radical elements who want to destroy our country. There is a difference between right and left. And our country, it's not a political situation we're in. It's not a political party that's going to turn our country around, even though this current administration has done amazing things to protect our freedom of speech, freedom of rights, freedom of religion, ability to protect the Second Amendment. Well, we need to now stand up and let our voices be heard. I know I'm asking myself, God, what do you want me to do? I feel that urge. I feel some drive. There's something more I can do even at my age. How can I make a difference to make sure that Charlie Kirk's legacy goes on and grows and builds? I'm so appreciative and excited about the outpouring from wealthy people, athletes, and others that have stood up and have given of their own finances to help the family and make sure these young children will have a protected life as well as the ability to have education and go to their fullest extent that God has for them. Thank you to all those who have done that. And I know there's going to be more. I know the best is yet to come for. I still can't believe he's gone. I missed it. Guys, and that's what we've got to remember now, those of us that are in the professional field of protecting lives. There were so many times our agency was well known. We were countless events in presidential appearances where we had protectees inside that Secret Service zone. Our protective agents were pinned, well, not only our pin, but Secret Service, and we worked alongside them for the protection of our principal and to help augment more presence. And we have continued to do that and will continue to do that every opportunity that we get. But where we don't have that presidential security, we as private sector protectors have to be much more proactive. Even when we don't have the big budgets, we can still do the proper advance work, the proper due diligence. And I encourage those of you that own companies or are in the protective service business, be willing to add that person or two at your own cost if necessary to protect the potential threats that might be against someone. That now my concern is we've had this young man, and interesting, the killer of the insurance executive in New York, and he was a brilliant young man, educated, smart, came from a good family. Now, this young man, 22 years old, a top student, very advanced, great family. He was not a down and outer. He wasn't someone who had been oppressed or maybe feeling that he had a right. He just became indoctrinated by the left's hatred. And he was misguided and led down a path to where he became this killer. What's frightening for this and alarming and concerning for us that have to prepare for future events is that this young man was able to buy a weapon easily, which we have, and unfortunately we have to keep that right. And this was a long gun, which I have a Mauser just like that, a bolt action, in chamber rounds, and it's known as a sniper rifle or a long range shooting rifle. And they're all over the place. And this young man was smart enough to, I'm sure he worked the web, found out about shooting, how to shoot, trigger pull, breath, and then he went practicing. And he had a scope, and at 200 yards, that scope would make like he was standing in front of him. And he had one trigger pull. And the danger is that now other copycats are going to rise up. Young people that have been brainwashed. In a recent survey, I saw that almost 30%, it was like 28 or 29% of young people felt that it was all right to do violence against somebody that disagreed with them or had different viewpoints. That, my friends, is chilling. We need to be on the alert. Stand up, and those in my field, the protective field, do your part. Do above and beyond. Let's do a deep dive advancement, ensuring that we've had every possibility brought back to the principle. And remember, there are times that we might have to add a person or two ourselves, but that should be done without thought, because our desire is to protect that principle. May God bless Erica, the two young children, and the family. I just can't imagine what they must be going through. I've watched her in tears as she has talked. A strong young woman. And God come around her and strengthen her and protect her and her family. I'm going to leave on another note with this. I'm a little amazed, a little bit, and perplexed by President Trump's working against thoughts and his actions against Putin. Yeah, we know Ukraine has been corrupt, but hey, the United States has been corrupt. Look what's happened. 8, 10 years, Mr. Trump, you were the victim of a lot of corruption. There's corruption in the U.S. As blatant as some other places. And so Zelensky's not a model moral man. He's got his problems just like all the rest of us. But his country was invaded. It wasn't Biden's fault that it was invaded. It was Russia's fault, knowing they could get away with it. In some ways, that did put some of the blame on Biden if he had been a stronger president. But, Mr. President, you're trying to deal with a KGB professional. I've worked against these guys and women. Some interesting stories from on the ground in Europe. And he is good. He has no intention, Mr. President, of bringing about peace. I know you were disappointed that you wasn't able to bring peace. I know you thought he would respond because you've been so successful in everything you've done. But you're dealing with an evil man who is not going to respond to anything but power, and a lot of it. By not acting quicker, we've allowed more people to die in Ukraine by not holding Putin to task. So I pray that you will assess the situation and realize what you're up against and take decisive action along with Europe and others to bring him to the knee. If not, we'll see war across Europe. If he gets away with Ukraine, Poland will be next. Others, he's testing the NATO now, and he's watching the response. Obviously, there's a real strong response growing there. And it seems like I just watched a briefing by the general, the American general that's in charge of NATO and the forces. So, but let's be aware. Let's not be naive. No matter how smart we are, there's somebody out there smarter than us. So, I challenge you. Let's stand up and take the steps necessary to bring this evil that Russia has put onto Ukraine to a stop. I welcome your comments. I welcome your thoughts. If you've got some of Charlie and feel free to post it. And if you got some comments about what I've said, let me know. We use the information on any of the platforms, or you can email me at pi777 at gmail.com. I'm grateful for those people that are standing up and stepping up. And I pray that you're one of those. So let's together step out of the crowd and make a difference. Let your voice be heard. We can make a difference together. May God bless you, your family. And as we end this, would you like, share, subscribe? And you know the drill. Hit the notification bell. We can get the message out to more people. And so as God blesses you, your family, may God bless America. Stay safe. See you next time.